video. Today I just wanted to come on and talk to you guys about something that I often still get lots of questions about, even until this day. But basically, I get a lot of questions concerning how did I get over my um, my recent ex, and then also how did I open myself up to allowing myself to love again and meet my fiance. So the reason why I get so many questions about how did I get over my recent ex is because I was actually married to him, and I have a child by him as well. And oftentimes people ask me, um, I still get a lot of questions from different people asking me how did I get over it. Give you guys a little background before I dive deep into answering that question. So my ex-husband and I, we ended up getting engaged or whatever. And mind you, I'm only 25, so I was engaged at 21. We got married when I was 22, and then I ended up having my daughter when I was 23. But we literally got married in the same year of me having my daughter. So I got married in April and I had my daughter in September. My daughter was planned, and even though she was planned, not to, because I'm not coming on here to bash anybody, but even though she was planned, I still did not get the help or necessarily have the support that I was supposed to have from him. I'll just leave it at that. But to give you a background on the whole thing, so even before, when we had got engaged, even before we got in, no, not before we got engaged, after we got engaged, I found out that he was cheating on me. He was talking to numerous girls. Girls were telling me that he was coming to their house and stuff, and they would message me and all this, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so then I forgave him, and I still ended up marrying him because the girls had stopped hitting me up, and he was saying that he had changed. So I believed him, and I still ended up marrying him. And literally, I would say a good 3-4 weeks after we got married, I started getting messages again from girls telling me that he was coming to see them. They talked to him on a daily basis, blah, 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 blah. He was telling them that we were getting a divorce and all kinds of crazy mess like that. Not going to dive deep into the whole relationship, but just to give you guys that don't know the scope of everything that had happened. So that was literally after we got married. So basically, I didn't really even have a marriage per se. My marriage was over before my marriage even began, if that makes sense. So, yeah. But even through the midst of all of that, I mean, I'm a strong believer in God and everything like that. So I was listening to a lot of church folk tell me that I should forgive him, and the first year of marriage is hard and all this crazy nonsense and stuff like that. So I literally tried for months, even after, every time I found out that he was cheating on me, I would still try. It just didn't work. You can't make somebody that really don't want to be held down, basically. And the one thing, through the midst of all of that, the one thing that bothered me the most about telling some people my story was that, oh, y'all was just too young. It would get on my nerves because my marriage failing had nothing to do with me being young. It had a lot to do with me marrying somebody who wasn't ready. I was ready. I've always been the type, and if you know me, you know, I've always been the type to settle down, be with one person. I love the whole concept of having a family. It wasn't the fact that I was young that my marriage didn't work out. It was the fact that I just married somebody that wasn't ready. I was ready, but that person wasn't ready. And I think it's because I seen the potential in that person. That's the reason why I went for it. But anyway, so long story short, I went through a lot with him and dealing with a lot after the marriage. Well, when the marriage started to end, basically, before it even started. But I was pregnant, so I was continuously going back and forth from where I had moved to, which was an hour away from my home, to my family, dealing with all of that stuff back and forth. Even in the midst of that, my family was thinking that I was going to lose my child because I was literally stressing so much over him. And I was worried about my child and I was thinking about my child, but ultimately I was literally stuck on him. So, yeah, I went through so much. I was depressed. I've always dealt with depression, which that would be another video for another day, but I've always dealt with depression. So going through that situation that I went through with him, my depression was at an all-time high. And factor that into the hormones that you have when you're pregnant and stuff, I was really going through it. And I thank God for my church family and for my friends and my family that was praying. Even those people who didn't know the full story of everything, I still thank God that those people were praying for me, because if they didn't pray for me, I don't even think I would be here today, or my daughter. That's how depressed I had became. At times I contemplated suicide. Really went through a lot mentally and physically, dealing with what I went through with that. And I often hear a lot of people tell me that they couldn't even tell. Sometimes they couldn't even tell that I was going through so much at the time. And even to this day, I still don't tell the full story of everything that happened into details. I mean, still to this day, I'm still telling my family stuff that happened that I didn't tell them about. But yeah, even though on the outside it looked like it was easy, easy transition for me, it wasn't. It was actually a long process for me. There was numerous of times that I cried and cried and cried and cried and cried and didn't really understand why it had to be me that was going through this. But now I see that a lot of people do watch my life, and that I feel like I went through what I went through, one, for me to be a stronger person and to know what I wanted to accept out of a partner, and two, so that I could be a help to somebody else. So oftentimes I do get those questions of how did I get over this stuff, and the only thing that I can say of how I got over it is, one, I found people who I could actually confide in and not be judged by. And I talked to them about it, not necessarily telling them the full details of stuff, but telling them how I felt, how sad I was feeling, how depressed I was feeling. One thing I will say, if you keep all that stuff balled up inside of you, that's definitely not going to help you get over the whole thing. But being able to talk to somebody, even if it's not a friend or a family member. I know in the Black community, a lot of people say, oh, you shouldn't go to a therapist and all this nonsense. That's a lie. I feel like therapists are there for an important reason, and hence I went to school for that. So of course I'm going to be a strong advocate for it. But I do strongly believe that it is important that you shouldn't feel ashamed if you have to go talk to somebody. And I feel like in the Black community especially, it's often looked down on or frowned upon if you say that you go to a therapist. There is nothing wrong with that, because sometimes it's hard to confide in friends or family. Sometimes it's better to just have an outside person who knows nothing about anything, and who's not going to be biased towards a certain person, but they're actually going to tell you and let you talk through basically what you're going through. So I think that's important when you're trying to get over something or someone, not just someone, but something in general. And then also, like I said, I strongly believe in God, and I'm a strong believer of faith. So even during those times when I felt down, as far as my faith wise, I'm pretty sure, and I know for a fact, that my home church family, they were definitely praying for me, and as well as my family. Then I finally got to the point of, okay, this is the last straw. And especially after I had my daughter, I was like, I just don't want my daughter to grow up in this situation. And so that was my main reason of leaving. and because I wanted better for myself as well, and that's why I left. So, like I said, I still went through a whole transition of trying to get over everything. I still was depressed on a daily. I still cried because ultimately I did love the person. I married the person. I had that person's child. But we both became each other's support system throughout the whole thing. And even in the beginning of me and him getting serious, um I told him, I was like, I'm hurt. I was like, I'm very hurt, and it's not just from this previous relationship, but it's from other relationships that I was in. Mainly two other relationships that I was in that really mattered the most to me. And I said, from each one of those relationships, I took something from it that hurt me, and I just carried it on with me to the next relationship. So now, like, I'm just broken at this point. We're going through all of that. And my fiance, he was very understanding. Like, he will often let me sit on the phone and just cry, because I would start telling him about different things, and I would tell him how hurt I was, and he would literally just listen. Like, it wasn't no him judging me because I felt the way that I felt or anything like that. He just literally let me be vulnerable with him, basically. And that really helped me to see that not all guys are the same. Sometimes after a female has been hurt many of times, and not even just females, males too, after they've been hurt numerous of times, they think that the opposite sex, that they're never going to find nobody, that they're never going to find love, that everybody is the same, everybody operates the same. And yeah, once you've been hurt so many times, it's like, do you really give yourself another chance? And that was my whole thing. I even told my fiance from the beginning of our relationship, I told him, I was like, we can be friends. That's what I told him at first. I said, we can be friends. And literally, I was not even thinking of I wasn't even thinking long term with him at first. One, because he stayed in Virginia and I stayed in North Carolina, and then two, because I was hurt. Like, I felt like at this point, I felt like, okay, I don't have my three good relationships, not three good relationships, but three important relationships in my life that's done happened already, and all three of them didn't work, and I'm hurt. And I just feel like at this point, like, I don't have my three, and I'm just done. Like, I'm just going to be single for the rest of my life, and I'm just going to take care of my daughter, and that's going to be it. And that was my mindset. And I told him, I told my fiance that from the beginning, and even still, he understood, because, him coming out of his relationship or whatever too. So, and when we both began to realize that we were actually falling in love with each other, like, we started arguing, like, over some nonsense stuff, because we was both scared. But then we realized, like, okay, like, we really don't even have nothing to argue about. Like, we're arguing over stupid stuff, and we're arguing over stupid stuff because we're both scared to be hurt again. And yeah, like, just realizing that with him and coming to that conclusion with him, I realized that it's okay for me to open my heart back up to him. And it wasn't just like a automatic opening my heart to him. Like, it happened over time. And like, he understands me, and he cares. And so he just takes the time to always reassure me that I'm the only person that he wants to be with, and that he cares about me, and that he loves me, and that he also loves my daughter, and he treats my daughter just like she's his. Like, yeah, it was easy for me to let go and allow somebody else to love me. bye.